Cheers.
When she got to the river full with rage, she proceeded to drown the kids.
Crazy things happened, and will happen. You just gotta keep an eye on. Goodbye.
What is up, you guys? We're back with another video. Thank you guys for staying tuned. Hope y'all been enjoying the content so far. So if you saw the previous video that I did with Oscar, we did a podcast and a video at the same time. It came out kind of weird, but anyways, I enjoyed doing a podcast with Oscar just because you have someone to talk with and interact with, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And remember, go and follow him on Instagram at OGpodcast __, and you can listen to all his previous episodes on his podcast. There'll be a link on his Instagram. Also, guys, I told my sister I was gonna help her out with this. She wanted to do a little side hustle, so she's doing little baggies with lip glosses in there. It's more for like the women. For guys, you can also buy it for your women. And I'll leave a picture right here of how it looks like, kind of. I'm sure she has different colors or whatnot. But anyways, I'll share the Instagram with y'all, so y'all can go ahead and follow her right here. But anyways, guys, we're back with another video. Today we're gonna be talking about the Fox sisters. If you're into the spiritualism world, into ghosts and talking with ghosts and seances and stuff like that, if you're into that stuff, then you kind of have an idea of who the Fox sisters are. So spiritualism is a belief that the dead can talk to the living. They believe that there is life after death in a way of energy, and they also believe that when you die, you don't go to hell or heaven. But anyways, that's just a brief description of what spiritualism is. And if y'all have a better idea of what spiritualism is, because I really don't, I just know that it has to deal with spirits and ghosts and stuff like that, and contacting the dead. But anyways, if y'all have a better idea of what it is, let me know. Leave a comment and I'll get back to y'all. Anyway, so the Fox sisters, Mr. Fox and Mrs. Fox moved down to the United States, and they decided to buy the old Bell home. This happened around 1847 or 1848, somewhere around there. So before we get into the description of how the Fox sisters came to show out the spiritualism community, let me talk to you about how it started out. It started out in this home that the parents bought. So the old Bell home belonged to, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Bell, and also they had a maid that lived there called Lucrezia. So Lucrezia was a maid. She was in charge of the household cleanings and feedings and stuff like that. A salesman comes by and he's selling household goods, knives, pans, kitchenware, curtains, just household items. So the salesman actually gets along very well with Mr. and Mrs. Bell, and they invite him to stay at their house while he's in town. Lucrezia shows him his room, and he sets up all his stuff that he's selling, and he puts it in his room. So there was rumors around town saying that Mrs. Bell was sleeping with the salesman, but there were just rumors, and there was really no evidence of it happening. So as the Bells are living with the salesman, Lucrezia starts slacking in her activities at the home, and they decide to fire her. So Lucrezia moves on, and before she leaves the house, she decides to buy a knife from the salesman. The salesman shows her the knife, and she gives him the money and the address where he can drop it off. After a few weeks, the salesman never showed up to the address that Lucrezia gave him, and she just thought, well, oh well, he's gone. He took my money and left. But after a few months, the Bells actually contact Lucrezia to see if she would want to come back to work for them. And of course, Lucrezia was having a hard time finding a job or keeping the job, and she said, well, I already know them, so might as well get back to work with them. When Lucrezia got back to the home, she realized that the salesman was no longer there. So she really didn't think nothing of it, and she just thought he moved on. One day while Lucrezia was sleeping, she started hearing tapping noises, and she started hearing footsteps across the hall. So she decided to go and investigate what those noises are. She went into the salesman's room because that's actually where she heard the footsteps lead to. She went in there and she saw all the salesman's stuff, but you know, she really didn't think anything of it. She just thought, well, maybe the Bells bought all this stuff off of him and that's why he left. So after a while, after all this activity of footsteps and tapping noises were going on, she started freaking out, and she asked her brother to stay with her while the Bells were gone. Her brother, after staying a few nights with her, realized what Lucrezia was telling him was true. So he bolted out the door and he never came back to the Bells. So one day when the Bells came back home, they were having a dinner with a very important person in town. So they asked Lucrezia if she can get the best wine from the cellar, the basement. Some of you call it the basement. So she went down to the cellar, and as she went to go get the wine, she tripped over a pile of dirt. So she grabbed the wine and went back upstairs, and she thought she would let Mr. Bell know so that he can kind of give an explanation or see what's going on. So Mr. Bell tells her, oh, it's okay, I was using the dirt to cover rat holes. And remember this information because it's gonna be very important for the story of what the Fox sisters went through. So he said, oh, don't worry, I've been covering rat holes. They're getting into the cellar, and they're eating our supplies of food that we are leaving down there. So I used that dirt to cover the rat holes. So Lucrezia went on with her day and really didn't think nothing of it. Till one night she started hearing footsteps again, and they actually led back down to the cellar. Lucrezia said, no, I am not crazy, I'm not out of my mind, so I'm leaving it alone. I'm not going back down there to the cellar. So after months and months of activity going on, the Bells decide that they want to sell their home. And this is when Mr. Fox, a Canadian farmer, comes in with his family and decides to buy the home. The Fox knew that the house was haunted because they were hearing rumors around town. Some of the people actually heard rumors from Lucrezia's brother. Some of them heard it from her, but it didn't stop the Foxes from moving into the house. So the Foxes actually bought some land around the old Bell home, and they decided they wanted to build a separate home where they would actually live. And as they're building that home, they decide to stay at the old Bell home. So Mr. and Mrs. Fox move into the old Bell home, and they actually bring their daughters with them, Margaret and Katie Fox. After a few weeks of staying in the home, they actually start hearing the same things that Lucrezia used to hear. And Margaret had the ability, way before all this happened, had the ability to talk to spirits or ghosts or whatever. And Katie would kind of help her connect with them in a way. Mrs. Fox actually saw what would happen. She would say that she was playing with a boy, and Mrs. Fox would tell her if it was her imaginary friend, and Margaret would say no, he used to live in this house or whatever. Mr. Fox was a very religious man, and he said, oh, it's just her imagination, she's a kid and she's talking to her imaginary friend. But anyways, they started hearing all these footsteps and tapping noises, and Margaret one night decides to investigate. She goes into the salesman's room. They had no idea that used to be the salesman's room or whatever. She goes in there and she hears a tapping, and when she taps back, she gets a response the same way. So she would tap and ask questions. She developed a way of talking to this entity or this spirit. So if she tapped twice, it would be a no. If she tapped once, it would be a yes. And that's kind of how they would communicate with yes or no questions. So the mom heard the commotion going on, And as she got out of bed, Mr. Fox realized she was getting off bed and followed her to the salesman's old room. Katie was already in the room with Margaret because she had heard her before her parents. So they were in there, and Mr. Fox just started going crazy. He thought that there has to be an explanation for this, so he went around the house tapping, stepping on stepping on floorboards, opening and closing doors to kind of debunk what was going on. But as he saw that for every question that Margaret would ask, she would get a smart response back, he went around to the neighbors' houses and he asked them if they can come over because something was going on in their house. So this spirit that Margaret and Katie were communicating with, they decided to call him Splitfoot. So every time they would call onto him, they would address him as Splitfoot. So as the neighbors came in to see what was going on, the neighbors started asking questions too, and it became in a way a seance, because they had all these neighbors asking their own questions, and all the neighbors were getting a smart response. So after weeks of actually communicating with the spirit of Splitfoot, a very interesting and disturbing in a way thing came up. So it turns out that after communicating with the spirit, they realized that this spirit that they're talking with was actually a salesman that used to live in the house and was murdered and buried in the cellar. You see, now this is why I told you had to remember the story of the house so you can understand what was going on. So it turns out that one of the neighbors was actually Lucrezia, the old maid that used to work there, and she in fact told them, yes, there was a salesman while I was working here and he vanished, he left. She really didn't know anything of him or what happened to him. And so Mr. Fox and some of the neighbors went downstairs to the cellar and started digging where that pile of dirt was. So after digging for hours, they actually found a fragment of a bone, and it had some hair on it and a little bit of skin on it. They decided to take it down to the doctor's office, where there was actually a criminal investigator from back then that helped the police uncover mysteries and stuff. So he confirmed that the fragment of bone was actually a human bone and the hair was human hair. So after all of this that happened and they found this bone and talking to the spirit, everything adds up. You have the bone fragment, you have Lucrezia's story, and you have the story of the communication between the spirit and Margaret and Katie Fox. So it's kind of hard to dismiss this, but then again, this was back in the days and stuff could have been changed over the years of the story. So after all this paranormal activity going on, the Fox, Mr. and Mrs. Fox decide to move into the house they're building. Their house was pretty far along in the build, so they decided to go ahead and move in. And for some reason they send Margaret and Katie Fox to upstate New York. Not upstate New York, Ranchester, New York. They actually had a third sister. The other sister's name was Leah. So in Ranchester, New York, the religious movements were booming. Everybody was trying to find a way to connect with a religion, and they were just trying to find a safe haven because of all the stuff going on, being poor and just suffering from not having enough money, not having enough work. So they were all looking for a safe haven in a religion. So after all the experiences they had in their old house, the sisters developed a plan to start communicating with spirits. So they started making seances in a hotel room that they would rent. They would have up to 30 people and they would charge $1 a person. And back then $1 was a whole lot of money. And imagine $1 per person, and that was just for a session. And I'm not really sure how many sessions would go on in a day, but they were making bank. They were making some moolah. So after their name going around and people figuring out what was going on in this hotel room, a very famous character in this spiritual movement. His name was Andrew Jackson DeVos. He decided to pay the sisters a visit to see what was going on and if they were real or hoax. So Andrew Jackson was actually, well, he considered himself a spiritual healer, and a medium. He went into one of the seances that the sisters were conducting, and he went in there with a skeptic mind. He went in there looking under the table, pulling stuff around, just making sure that nothing was rigged and everything was legit. So after finishing and conducting the seance, the two sisters kind of looked at Andrew Jackson, and Andrew Jackson was baffled. He knew this wasn't a hoax, and he knew that there was something going on with the two sisters, and they had talent. So with the help of Andrew Jackson, Margaret and Katie Fox started moving along in this journey of spiritualism. Andrew Jackson and the Fox sisters were just a few of the finders of this religion, and to give it to them, it was really easy to fall into what they were talking about, just because, like I said, in Manchester, everybody was looking for a safe haven. What better place than to be able to talk to someone that has passed away, talk to a sister, an aunt, an uncle, a mom, a dad. So this spiritual movement pulled in a lot of people, and personally, in my experience, I've experienced paranormal things, and it's hard not to believe that this is actually a true story. Then again, there's a lot of people making money out of other people's suffering. There's a lot of people out there saying they're mediums and giving readings to people and just getting their hopes up. And there's also people out there invoking evil stuff, which is really bad. And it's hard for someone that's not experienced with things like that, someone that's not set on a foundation of believing in what the good energy is and what good things are. It's hard for them to fall into all that negative stuff. There's a very fine line between good and bad, and it's easy to slip through it. Well, anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little story of the Fox sisters. If y'all have any stories y'all would like to share with me, please, guys, please, I cannot stress this enough, share them with me. You can reach me on social media and DM me, send me your story, or you can email me. I'll leave my email on there and my social media so y'all can get in touch with me. I have a little secret. So I have around 4 or 5 emails of stories that some viewers sent me. A few of them didn't want to give their names, and I respect that. They just want to tell a story and they don't want anything else to do with it. But 2 of them actually gave me their names, and I want to do a video and include those 4, I think it was 4 stories, and share it with y'all. Some of them are kind of short, so it might be a short video. I'm gonna try to tell it as best as I can with the information that they sent me, but I'll do that video for you guys. And remember, guys, just send me your stories. It can be a paranormal story, it can be an alien story, it can be a conspiracy theory, anything you've lived through, any problems y'all have, guys, y'all can come to me. I can give you the best advice that I can. I've been through a lot of stuff, so I don't want to say that I'm the man, yeah, I'm tough, but I've lived through a lot of stuff and I'm sure I can help y'all out. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for the views. Remember, guys, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so y'all can know whenever I upload a video. But yeah, I think that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time. And remember, guys, stay crazy. And like I say in all my other videos, crazy things happen. happen and will happen. You just gotta keep your eyes out. Goodbye.